But when the house lights went down and that spotlight hit Orville Peck, I was starstruck. I've lived in New York City for almost a year. Here are the Broadway shows I've seen so far. Have I seen many shows since moving? No, unless you count 3 as many, then, well, yes, I have. As someone who grew up kind of far from New York and always yearned to live in the city and be able to go see Broadway shows whenever I wanted, I'd say 3 is a lot. I certainly still have to pinch my pennies in order to attend, but my travel time to Manhattan has greatly reduced. Since moving to New York City at the end of July, I have seen 3 shows so far: Little Shop of Horrors, Cabaret, and Just in Time. Here are my thoughts. Back in September, I saw Little Shop of Horrors at the West Side Theater, and if you know anything about me, you know that this is one of my favorite musicals of all time. It is just so outrageous and yet earnest, and it really catches you off guard with how much heart it has. I have been following this revival since it opened back in 2019 with Jonathan Groff as Seymour, Tammy Blanchard as Audrey, and my first ever Broadway boyfriend, Christian Borle, as the dentist. Christian Borle as Emmett in Legally Blonde the musical. That's all you really need to know. Since this revival began, the rotating cast has been a treat to admire from a distance. The likes of Gideon Glick, Rob McClure, Corbin Bleu have stepped up into the role of Seymour, and actors like Jinx Monsoon, Constance Wu, Lena Hall have all taken up the mantle of Audrey at some point. A notable replacement for Audrey was Joy Woods, who I would have killed to have seen, but in this revival, she also originated the role of Chiffon, which I think is neat. All of these replacements, these actors, bring so much fresh air and life into this classic show, and it warms my heart to see all the different interpretations of these roles. In a sense, these characters get to live a million lives. And when I was in attendance for the show, my Seymour and Audrey were Andrew Barth Feldman and Sarah Hyland. I had no expectations for Sarah Hyland going into this. I'm not really a fan. I've never watched a full episode of Modern Family. I really didn't know what to expect, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised. She has this sweet sauciness to Audrey with a voice like Fran Drescher, and a really, really wonderful sensitivity to her. I feel like every time she was on stage, both her and I were on the brink of tears. She was just so sweet, and you really rooted for her. I also feel particularly spoiled for getting to witness biblically accurate Seymour Coburn, played by Andrew Barth Feldman. If they ever adapt Little Shop again into a movie, he has to be in the running for Seymour. He is just superb. And everyone in the show was superb. The energy that fills the theater, I have to imagine happens every night, but it feels like, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, it feels like a high school production. Like, it feels like a summer stock show. Like, it's just so fun and in earnest, and it's just, which I think, is due to the source material. I don't know how you can go into that theater and walk out not a fan. The West Side Theater itself is absolutely stunning and incredibly intimate. I was in row K or J, and I felt like I was right there. I felt like I could see into their eyes and they could see me back. It was crazy. As somebody who grew up in Buffalo, New York, touring Broadway productions will go to the Shays Theater, and the Shays Theater can hold, I think, 3,000 people. And I think the biggest Broadway theater, the Gershwin, can hold like 1,000. So I'm not used to this at all. I'm not used to every seat in the house being a good seat. So that wasn't expected. I talked about this a little bit in my Barbie video, but the sensation that radiated through my body at the end of that movie is the same sensation I get the entire time I'm watching a live production. Every time, without fail, I will cry at the opening number of a musical. Does not matter how professional, how amateur it is, it will always get me. Even when I watched my sister's very white, very bad middle school production of Aladdin, tears still sprang forth during Arabian Nights. I don't know what it is about me. I don't mind being vulnerable. I don't mind being a crybaby. So I don't mind telling you that I sobbed my way through most of the first act, but especially Skid Row. Let it be known, Skid Row is the best song in Little Shop, and that's not to say that the show peaks early. It's actually its biggest asset. Skid Row does so much heavy lifting in terms of, general exposition and establishing the emotional state of the characters and the stakes at hand. All of that combined with the insane vocals of the cast and the universal experience of wanting more. It's a powerhouse of a song. I would say it's the perfect example of an I Want song, but not when Somewhere That Screen is right there. So I won't. Once that initial emotional hurdle was met, I was sold and happily went along for the rest of the ride. The puppetry and the set design were breathtaking and befuddling. There is one special effects moment in particular that still has me scratching my head because I don't know how they did it. Go to the show for the puppetry alone and you will not be disappointed. Little Shop is an excellently paced show. Everything just leads from one thing to the next, and it's fast, it's quick, you're engaged, and then suddenly the show is over and I'm on the train ride back to Brooklyn. And I felt really disappointed. Not in the performance, but in the fact that it was over. I always dubbed this feeling as like post-show depression, but this time, I really addressed it. I didn't push it down. I wasn't like, well, you should be grateful. I let it breathe and I watched it transition from the anticipation of seeing the show, the excitement of being there, and then being able to share it with my partner back home. This was a difficult period in my life. Transitionally, I've never lived this far away from home. The show feels like home. And I feel like addressing this negative feeling and turning it into something more positive was the start of me reframing a lot of negative thoughts that I was having in my life. And I feel a lot healthier because of it. So thanks, Little Shop. When I saw Cabaret in Just in Time, it was actually on the same day. I simply knew that I had to see Rebecca Frecknell's revival of Cabaret at some point while I lived here. And then once it was announced that Orville Peck would be playing the MC, my fate was sealed. I got a matinee ticket to see Cabaret because I had already purchased a ticket for a preview performance of Just in Time later that evening, but we'll get there shortly. Let's tackle these chronologically. Cabaret. I wish I had seen the August Wilson before it was transformed to look like the Kit Kat Club in Berlin, but that does not diminish how impressive the results are. You don't even enter the building through the front of the theater. You go down like this long, dark alley and in through the back. They put stickers on your phone cameras, both so you don't record the show and to add an immersive layer. Many clubs like the Kit Kat Club require you to have a sticker over your phone camera for anonymity and safety sake, debauchery, whatever. The inside is so dark and broody and velvety. It's obscene how gorgeous this building is. I made sure to get there early so I could explore the theater as much as I could, and also to bear witness to the prologue performers. There are several dancers and musicians who perform numbers and vignettes like all over the theater, like in the lobby, in the actual theater itself, before the show starts. And a lot of the performers are also understudies within the show, which I didn't know until I got my playbill. They all blew me away and I was endlessly impressed with them. Once I found my seat, get this, nobody else sat in my row. I was smack dab in the middle and nobody sat on either side of me. It was a Wednesday matinee in the middle of April, so I'm sure they don't get the biggest crowds during that time of year. Very respectful audience, no complaints there. Everyone was great. But when the house lights went down and that spotlight hit Orville Peck, I was starstruck. One of my favorite artists in one of the biggest roles in Broadway history, and he does not disappoint. His vocals were strong and stunning and so uncharacteristic. I'm so used to his cowboy desperado twang that the biggest treat was being able to hear him sing so stylistically differently. As Willkommen, the opening song, progresses and the other members of the Kit Kat Club start to join him, he just kind of blended in. And that is the biggest compliment that I can give. I don't know what a whole quarter of Orville Peck's face normally looks like, so I was never taken out of the performance because I knew it was him. So as a result of this, he was just another member of the ensemble. Again, not derogatory. And he just like slotted in so perfectly. There is no ensemble slander in this house. Get it? Got it? Good. Not to mention that Ava Noblezada was out for my performance, and so the stunning, and I mean stunning, Paige Smallwood went on in her place and added an even extra layer of immersion for me in that case. It was honestly kind of an ideal performance for me as someone who's never seen a production of Cabaret live, to let the story and music wash over me and really make its impact. And at the end of the day, Ellen Harvey, who plays Fraulein Schneider, was the only face that I recognized in this cast, simply due to the fact that I have watched the cast of the How to Succeed in Business revival Tony Awards performance 1,002 times. She's this lady. So what is there to say that hasn't already been said about Cabaret? It's unfortunately very pertinent to the political and social climate of today, and it just brings so many tears to my eyes as it reminds me of the sentiment, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Particularly after this Brat summer that we all just shared, the context around the character of Sally Bowles has never been clearer to me. The lost, wandering party girl who thinks that politics isn't all around us and impacts everything that we do. It suddenly makes a lot of sense. Not to admonish Charlie XCX or her fans, I am one of them. Just the juxtaposition of being so plugged into nightlife and so unplugged from world or even local politics, unfortunately reads loud and clear. And when I say that Paige Smallwood brought the house down with her rendition of Cabaret, I mean that. I was on the edge of my seat. I flinched, I cried, I cheered. They are certainly an actor to look out for. Also, two actors in two roles that I don't think get enough love online are Steven Skybell as Herr Schultz and Calvin Leon Smith as Clifford Bradshaw. Steven Skybell as Herr Schultz goes through the ringer in the show, does he not? He goes from timid to romantic to goofball to devastated to resigned in such a beautiful performance, and that must be a hard role to step into 8 shows a week. I think from the beginning of this run, I believe he has always been Herr Schultz. I could be wrong. How are people online not discussing Calvin Leon Smith as Clifford Bradshaw more? He is my definitive actor for this role, and that's final. Clifford Bradshaw always came off to me as a pervert, poser, weakling, to put it lightly. Of course, he was going to be blindsided and intoxicated by the nightlife of Berlin and lose track of why he came here in the first place. But Calvin Leon Smith and this revival in general just make him feel so much more sympathetic and cool and bisexual, confirmed. Before, Cliff always felt like an observer, even as the show progressed, but in this version, he feels so much more like an active participant, which I think is essential in the show being effective and is the perfect depiction of how people become complicit without even realizing. If he always comes off as a reluctant observer, it always comes off as, hey, I'm innocent, my hands are tied, you would also deliver packages for the Nazis too, as opposed to a man realizing his faults and taking accountability for his actions and his agreement to turn a blind eye. The recontextualization of Clifford Bradshaw combined with the performance from Calvin Leon Smith makes this already powerhouse of a show that much stronger. If you have to see any one of these shows that I talk about in this video, I beg you that it's this one. Where the anonymity of Cabaret was its strength, I find the inverse to be true for Just in Time, which deserves to be seen for what it is, a spectacle. Jonathan Groff as Bobby Darin, Alex Timbers directing, Erica Henningsen, Gracie Lawrence, Michelle Pock, oh my god. It is also a Cabaret nightclub presentation, although on the opposite end of the spectrum, I would say. Just in Time is in Circle in the Square, and my first impression walking into that theater was, God, I wish I could have been here to see Sexy Oklahoma. The space is so small and immersive. Great audience behavior here as well, no complaints. I don't think this show will be everyone's cup of tea. If you don't enjoy having fun, I'm a little biased. I listened to Bobby Darin a lot growing up, so the show feels a wee bit tailor-made for me. Definitely a show that is filled to the brim with everything. I feel like there's a million songs, even if they're only sung for 15 seconds at a time. There's blinding lighting and set changes that happen so quick they feel like close-up magic. And the dazzling choreography. I have to shout out Shannon Lewis, the choreographer, and the three sirens. I'm just going to read off the screen. Valeria Yamin, Christine Cornish, and Julia Grondin. You ladies are quite literally doing the most in this damn show. This was an incredibly enchanting night of theater. Again, I feel a little biased because of the Bobby Darin and the Jonathan Groff of it all. I have been a fan of Jonathan Groff since I was maybe younger than 12. So getting to see him perform live was a dream come true, and I will be riding this high for a very long time. He's just an absolute legend, and if I never see him perform in the flesh ever again, I can be at peace knowing that I watched him give the performance of a lifetime as Bobby Darin. He is singing his face off, dancing like you've never seen him do before, rapid fire costume changes, and literally standing on a rapidly spinning cocktail table at one point. What can't this man do? And he still manages to make it look effortless. I don't know how he does it. I'm not sure if this has changed since the show opened, but during previews, they had planted bottles all over the stage and moments written into the show to allow Jonathan Groff to drink water, which I loved. I hope they still do that because he needs it. And I'm going to be honest here, I did not know who Michelle Pock was before seeing this show, but based on the publicity and the promotional videos around the show, I take it she's a big deal. And watching her play Bobby Darin's mom in Just in Time was more than enough proof. She has this great dry wit about her and this golden age gracefulness. I honestly want to go back just to see her performance. She was incredible. And I know it's controversial to say, but I am a fan of the band Lawrence, or at least their song Freckles. It will never fail to put me into a good mood. And the lead singer of the band Lawrence, Gracie Lawrence, plays Connie Francis, who is another 50s, 60s singer that is very near and dear to me. She is just cute as a button and has this incredible voice that shakes the theater when she sings. I would really love to see her take on more Broadway roles in the future. And oh my God, Erica Henningsen, my beloved. It has been a month since I have seen this show, and it is her performance that I keep coming back to. She's only featured in Act 2, but her presence looms large. Watching her play the role of Sandra Dee in Just in Time was like witnessing a star on the rise. Like, I know that she's already a huge star with Mean Girls, Has Been Hotel, and that new Netflix show she's in under her belt, but I mean, it feels like she's being catapulted into legend territory in this show. Her performance is so complex and vulnerable and funny, and it's just a breeze for her. She has such a long career ahead of her, so I don't feel like she will necessarily be remembered for her role in Just in Time. I just feel like she's destined to have many more roles to come that will cement her as a Broadway icon definitively. These shows have all impacted how I engage with art, and I feel really grateful that my life has led me to a place where I can just take the train and go see them if I want. Of course, that's hardly a sliver of the shows that are playing in New York right now. I still really want to see maybe Happy Ending and Death Becomes Her, but we shall see if my paycheck allows. But yeah, this has been Antiseptic, and thank you for watching.